Hello everyone, welcome back to Timsy Naked Tarots if you are a regular, and welcome to Timsy Naked Tarots if you are new. This is a Signs on Sunday. It's where I do a premiere and we discuss about signs. I'm going through the alphabet. Today we are up to M. I have chosen Moths. The reason I have chosen Moths is because when I done... when I was thinking about what to do, I should say, I decided I'll do a Google search. And so I put the spiritual meaning of M, and Moths came up. And obviously that's what you, the people, are looking for quite a lot at the moment, for that to be, I think it was the second result. So yeah, we are doing Moths. Can't remember what the first one was, but I thought, well, it's not really a good thing to do. And so we're going for Moths. Yeah, just before we get going on that, just feel free to put anything in the comments if you are watching this as a replay. If you are watching it live, feel free to put anything in the chat. If you have any ideas what N should be for the next week's one, drop it in the chat or the comment and we will work it in. Possibly maybe put it to a public vote in the middle of the week if there is enough interest in that particular thing. Okay, so yes, I've picked Moths this week because it was the second from top search on Google. So when I've decided we're doing Moths, I didn't look to see what anything was on the Google thing. I just literally put it in and it came up with, you know what you do. You put it in and it comes up with a list, the suggested things. So that's what I done. And I started thinking about Moths. What can the spiritual meaning of Moths be? So one of the things I thought of, probably the first thing I thought of about Moths, were they're nocturnal. So this would be dealing with your dark shadow side, or maybe not so dark, just your shadow side. The side of you which is like kept in the dark, the side you don't let out as much, or just the side that everyone else don't really see. Okay, they can also fly, which to me would suggest freedom and liberation, and to some extent freedom and liberation from the shadow side, because they fly towards light. Okay, because the moth navigates by keeping the moon to one side of it or the other side of it, and that's why they are attracted to flames. Okay, because they see the flame as a moon, and that's why they fly round and round in circles around the flames. Okay. Yeah, so and that is where the saying comes from, yeah, like a moth to the flame. Now, going from that saying of like a moth to a flame, I suddenly thought, well, that's a little bit of an sort of an unexpected, not so thought about meaning of Moths on a spiritual level. Perhaps you are heading towards your own doom when you are getting signs of Moths. A lot of the time, Moths will fly into a fire. Okay, they fly round the flame until they get burnt. So they literally fly to their own doom. I don't necessarily literally mean your doom and destruction or anything like that. But what I mean by that is perhaps you're self-sabotaging yourself. Perhaps a little bit like the Five of Swords card from the tarot deck can mean self-sabotagement. So perhaps like your moth is like suggesting that you are setting yourself up to fail somehow. The other thing that a moth can also represent on a spiritual level is the fact that it was a caterpillar before it turned to a moth. So there is possibly some sort of hard, painful change ahead of you. And yes, the caterpillar turns itself into a chrysalis and then turns into a moth or a cocoon. And then it turns into a moth. But it literally rearranges everything in its own body. It turns into like a caterpillar soup and then emerges as a moth. Okay, not all caterpillars emerge as a moth. Some emerge as butterflies, and pretty much all insects do this one way or another. Okay, they have a grubby larva form, which then goes into a chrysalis stage, a metamorphosis stage, and then comes out as the adult mature insect. So from there, I thought, okay, maybe it's time to... Actually, no, I went on to another thought. The fact that they're nocturnal. Yeah, that made me think about another one. It's kind of funny. My last thoughts about moths took me right back to where I started from. And yeah, the last thing I thought about them is, for most people, no one really knows about what moths do, what moths are. They fly around at night time and everyone's asleep. No one sees them, except for these people who study moths, or I don't know the right word for these people who study moths, but insect collectors as well, I suppose. People who collect moths probably stay awake and try to catch them, or at least set traps to catch them. But it sort of suggests that they have a mysterious life, a life not really known by people. So that's maybe what the moth is indicating to you in some sort of sign or signal, that you have a side of you no one really knows about. It's kind of like that dark shadow side I mentioned before, but it's possible that, yeah, you go to work and you socialize with your workmates, and possibly you might go to a pub or a club a couple of days a week and socialize with groups there. But for the bulk of most people who know you, there's things that you don't just let people know about. There's like hobbies and interests that you just keep to yourself and you just do. You don't really go out broadcasting it everywhere. And again, the moth could be indicating that, or possibly someone like that is about to come into your life. Okay. So yeah, we don't let the people see, and only a tiny percentage of the people we know in our lives, or you might be letting it into that tiny percentage of people who know about something like that in someone else's life. So after thinking about things like that and jotting them down on my notebook, jotting them down on my notebook, I looked on the internet, and what I found was, well, moths appear when sort of you're on an edge of a life change, a life-changing moment or transformation, or they could be an indication of spiritual or personal growth. They are delicate creatures as well, and this would be symbolic of being vulnerable. Okay, it doesn't take much to stop a moth from flying. All you have to do is rub the dust off their wings and they can't fly anymore, and things like that. So it makes them vulnerable. Okay. Yes, you might hear me turning my pages quite a lot more. In an attempt to keep track of my notes as I'm doing these, I've actually left a line in between each line I've written. Hopefully I should be able to follow along better with my own notes, but I haven't so far. I've deviated and then gone back. Okay. You see, because I've now just turned the page and it's starting me off in a bit where I'm not sure why it's starting me off there. Oh, vulnerable. The representation of your shadow side is the fact that they are nocturnal, okay? And the fact that they follow the light is also, while you are diving through your shadow side, you are looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. You're looking for the answers of whatever you're dealing with. And they're also very symbolic of death. And I don't mean a literal death, but sometimes it can be. It is like the death card, a transformation, a change, because of their metamorphosis they go through. Okay, so for yeah, okay. So far so good. I'm sort of bang on my money. My personal intuitive thoughts about what moths were is kind of like very in tune with what people are putting on the internet about them. More experienced and expert people than me, or perhaps they're just better writers, so they write theirs down. I'm a terrible writer. I often think about writing a book or something like that. Never get very far with it because I'm not interested in writing. That's why I do videos of signs instead of writing about them in blogs and the like. But I'm bang on the money so far. And talking about being bang on the money, or just money in general, I would like to let you know that if you would like, you can do a super sticker or a super chat on any of my lives or premieres now. I have reached a certain status within YouTube where I'm allowed to add that into my channel. And you can also do super chats. Now, what a super chat is you spend money and it puts your question at the top of the chat. Very, very helpful for people who have thousands of people watching at the same time and they're all asking questions, because it puts their question up at the top for X amount of time, and the creator or the person doing the talking on the video can get back and answer those questions on lives. Not so much on premieres, because I'll be in the chat, but I won't be doing it live. You're watching a video of me. I'm just in the chat to talk to you if you're in the chat. You can find these super stickers. The super stickers will be just like a little, I think it's a little sticker icon with a dollar sign in it. And the super chat icon is when you're on a live chat of some description, either premiere or live. And it's a similar thing. I think it's a banknote in a chat bubble. So you can find them. And these are also available, the super chats, and there's super thanks as well, which is available on all videos. You can super thanks this video, you can super thanks one of my videos I've done right at the beginning, because this now carries over any video I create. Okay, so as we were talking about signs and things, which is what we're here for, not talking about the fact that I am now slightly monetized on YouTube. We have to take into account colors of moths, okay? As always with all signs, the colors of them, shapes of them, sizes, locations, they all have some sort of relevance on what the actual message is meant to be about. And the fact that it's you having these signs actually takes relevance on what the message is about them. A black moth to me might be something totally different to a black moth to you. And so we have to take our own personal situation into account with any signs we do. So the colour is always important. So let's cover a few of them now. If we see a black moth, and this is, I'm not talking dreams at the moment, I'm just talking, you keep seeing moths, you keep seeing black moths. And it's becoming so regular and such an occurrence that it's no longer a chance. It's actually some sort of synchronicity going on. That's what signs are about. Not everything you see is a sign. Let's just clear that up as well. You can be walking down the street, you see one feather. It's not a sign. You see one moth, it's not a sign. It could be, but it's probably not. It's when you see multiples of these things, you can't get away from them, is when they start becoming screaming in your face. This is a sign. Take note of this. It's your spirits trying to communicate to you, or other things. It might not be spirits. It might be... if you believe in aliens, it might be aliens. It could be the universe itself trying to talk to you, or God if you are religious. So we have to take note. So a black moth, it represents your shadow side, which means you have to be dealing with something which you keep buried, you keep hidden from everyone else. And you need to bring it to the light, because there are a few various different signs that say you have to deal with your shadow side. But the moth sign would say you have to deal with this. You have to bring it to the light, because the moth is always traveling towards the light in its nocturnal journeys. Okay. Black moths can also be a departed loved one. Like sometimes robins are seen as a departed loved one coming and checking in on you, so are black moths. Okay, so next time you're squishing a moth in your living room or bathroom, then note you could be killing a loved one yet again. Right. That sounded a bit wrong. That meant it kind of sounded like I implied you killed him the first time. You know what I mean. Okay, so black moths could also be a literal signification of death. Someone close to you might be dying, or you might have to deal with a death which affects you in some personal way. I say it like that because death happens all the time. People die all the time. Sometimes you don't know them, sometimes you do know them, but you only know them as like an associate or something like that. So you think, oh yeah, that's sad for the family and all that, but it doesn't really affect me. I might have to talk to a new salesman, but by the by. So it's more of a closer personal death that these black moths could be giving you synchronicities for. Okay. A white moth indicates good things are coming your way. Okay, they are generally seen as good omens, the white moths. A green moth represents things hidden from your sight. those times when you're walking around looking for your car keys. I think I may have talked about this particular one in last week's episode, or maybe the week before's. But you can't find them for love nor money, and then you give up looking, and there they are. They appear. But this is more of a things which are hidden from your sight for a specific reason by spirit, and then it suggests that you have to take a step back. You have to slow down. You have to take a deep breath. You have to think about it for a little while, and lo and behold, the situation then sorts itself out. Okay, and you find out what was staring right in front of you all the time on the table where you left them when you came in from the night before, or when you got home from work, or whenever it was you put them down on the table. Blue moths are quite unique. If you actually see a blue moth, there are. I actually think I have seen blue moths in the past. There are species of blue moths. There are numerous species of moth, come in all shapes and sizes, come in all colours. But generally speaking, they are kind of quite drab looking. It's because they hibernate during the day, or not hibernate, they sleep during the day, so they need to be well hidden. Okay, so normally their colours affect, or reflect, I should say, their environment. Now, if they live in a very blue area with lots of blue flowers or blue buildings or anything, they will blue ones will blend in better, and black ones will stand out more, and the black ones will get picked up by predators, and the blue ones will survive. Thus, the gene pool keeps going with the blue, where the black gene pool die out. It's the way it works. It's the way life works generally. Unless, of course, you get to a conscious state like us humans have got to, and you take yourself out of that situation. But they are unique, and they represent wisdom, emotions, patience, and forgiveness, and spiritual communication. Seeing blue moths could be indicating that there is a spirit of some description trying to get into contact with you. Okay, moths in dreams. They could mean any of the things I've mentioned already. Okay, where the real time seeing moths in general life, it could be the exact same thing you're getting from a dream. So if you're seeing a black moth in real life and then you're dreaming of black moths as well, it could mean exactly the same thing. Okay, but on a whole, they generally are seen as a positive in dreams. But there are some negatives, and there's like kind of like, and I don't know where this all kind of come from, but I did piece together some weird little story as I was writing all this out. There is this mental positivity, a limitation, and an envy with moths in dreams. Okay, so as I've covered earlier, moths are a nocturnal creature. They fly around at night, and they're guided by the moon. They navigate by the moon. Okay, or the light the moon gives is more to the point. They're not flying towards the moon as such, but they're guided by the light the moon gives. Okay, and this is one of the reasons they fly towards our light sources we make, because before humans were around, or as numerous as we are now, yeah, and before we made street lights and lit up huge areas of night sky with cities, and made even the most basic fire torch in our early years, etc., the moon was the brightest thing in the night sky. Okay, it was the light source, what everything went by during the night time. And so the moth would fly towards the moon, and it might not be intending to go to the moon, but it looked like the moth was always flying for the moon. It was trying to get to the moon. And that's where that positive mindset gets. That moth was always flying towards the moon, trying to get to it. It's a positive mindset. But then it's got limitations, okay? Being a moth, it means it's like never actually ever going to get to the moon, okay? It hasn't got a rocket ship. It hasn't got breathing apparatus. That's even if you believe we can get to the moon. I know that maybe some of you who watch this don't believe we've been there, don't believe we can get there, but hey-ho, it is what it is. Yeah, and in turn, the fact that this moth can never actually make it to the moon, it makes the moth envious of those it thinks has been to the moon, okay? So this means you shouldn't, or this, I rephrase that, this doesn't mean that you should like give up on your attempts to reach the unattainable. Yeah, for instance, you can't make it to the moon either, not unless you have access to a rocket ship or know Elon Musk very well and ask if you can borrow one of his or something like that. But it's more of what we learn along the way. Every night that moth flew towards the moon, never reaching its goal. It was limited, yeah, and it was envious. But on the way, on that journey, night after night, it finally found a mate. It finally had children. It found shelter every morning. It found food to eat. Okay. Yes, it was limited. And yes, it's envious of people who have been to the moon or things that have been to the moon. It thinks have been to the moon. But what it sees as possible, like, what's the right word for it? I think I've just gone the wrong way with my notes. No, I haven't. What it sees as like possible riches and possible greatness and its ultimate goal, yeah, could actually be a burden, okay? Because after all, a moth can't survive on the moon, and neither can we. So, in general, yeah, through dreams of moths, they are good omens, as I said a little earlier on. But there are some warning dreams you can get with moths in as well. For example, yes, our black moth might be just like what I said if you've seen it in the 3D world, but it could also be telling us just sort of like you may be losing something. There might be someone or something important in your life which you're going to lose if you don't address a situation of some description. It's not going to tell you the situation. There will be other signs and synchronicities in your dream to tell you the situation. If you're dreaming of like a big moth, for example, this could be an indication that your subconscious is tackling and struggling with an issue it has. You may not be conscious of it in the 3D, and it might just all be in the back of your mind, but there will be something which you're trying to deal with. It's kind of like part of the shadow work you have to do on yourself from time to time. And you have to remember, a lot of our spiritual power actually comes from the shadow side. Yeah, because our light side, the side we show everyone else, well, that's kind of controlled a lot by our brain and our 3D and our ego. Okay, the shadow side is what is not controlled by the ego, is what the ego kind of, our brain kind of tries to keep under control, tries to keep locked away, because it sees it as something which is dangerous, something which could possibly harm us. Okay, but it's where a lot of our power is actually locked in. Okay, so yes, we need to address a situation, and your subconscious is dealing with it for a big moth. Now, if you're dreaming of a moth on your body, this could indicate that there are some challenging times ahead of you. Okay, from the metamorphosis of a moth, which is indicating changes, from a caterpillar to a moth. If it's on your body, it's indicating that you personally might be going through some changes, which may be challenging. Okay. The last one is if you dream of a moth on your head anywhere. This will be in your intuitive side actually saying that it suspects someone might be betraying you. So, right, some folklores and ancient beliefs from ancient cultures which have been linked with moths in the past. Okay, so if we start with the Norse mythology, we have the goddess of death and the underworld, Hela, and it's pronounced Hela. Well, as far as I know, I'm not an ancient Norse person, and the ancient Norse languages are actually dead. The best person to ask is an Icelandic person, because Old Icelandic is the closest thing to ancient Norse we still have. But I believe it's pronounced Hela, even though it's spelled just Hel. Yeah. And that's where the name for their underworld or their hell come from. And I did try my best to pronounce that without the double L, which we have in Christianity. So a white moth was always associated with her. Okay, from Greek mythologies, moths were associated with the goddess of love, and the name escapes me. I should have written it down. I didn't write it down because I knew what the name was. I think it's Athena, something like that. But it's the goddess of love, and it just says moths were associated with her, and that's because moths are attracted to light, I assume. Okay, the light one person would emit on a spiritual level would attract a spiritual moth in, or some other loving partner. Okay, some Native American tribes from California considered moths a symbol of transformation and healing. Okay, but yet other tribes from Long Island actually have a whole myth story of the Mothman and the Thunderbird. I didn't dive too deep into these stories. I'm limited on time for doing my research for these things. I do know a few stories about the Thunderbird. The Thunderbird is linked with the creation stories for the Native Americans. Now, this is just what I get from reading things, listening to documentaries and the like. If you are a Native American out there, or if you are an ancient Greek, or if you are a Norse of any description, if you're Icelandic, come from any of the Scandinavian countries, and you want to put me right on what I've mentioned, feel free, drop it in the comments. I don't mind. In fact, I actually embrace people's comments like that, because I like to know that when I'm telling people things, I'm telling them as factual as I can. I don't like the thought of I've just told someone something which was totally made up by someone 10 years ago. Okay, I always try to find the facts. So yes, if you want to contradict me on anything, feel free, drop it in there. I will take it on board for next time. Okay, and Old English folklore, the moth was always signifying death. Okay, a death of some description. It could be a death of a situation, a death of a person, death of animals. Maybe a bad harvest, that would be a death of a harvest, possibly, which would have a knock-on effect with maybe a famine during the winter and a death increase during the winters. But still, there you go. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, if you have any ideas or any suggestions you want me to look into for N, feel free. Generally, I'm trying to go along 3 topics, either a thing like a knife, and that's with a K though in it. You'd get my meaning. An object or a type of situation, or maybe a thing. Living creatures like a narwhal, okay, or mythical creatures like the Norns from Greek mythology, not Greek, Roman, or no, not Roman. Jesus, I'll get there in the end. Viking mythology. Both Greeks and Romans have their own version of the Norns. The Norns are literally 3 giantesses who weave the fabric of time together. I think in Greek or Roman mythology they are called the Muses. Okay, and there's more than 3 Muses. I think there's 9, 3 groups of 3. But they, again, weave time together. Okay, so if you have any suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comments or the live chat if you are watching this live. If you ever want to ask me any questions about dreams, signs, synchronicities, or anything you have, and you don't want to be so public as YouTube with them, feel free to drop me an email. It is SII7E8@AOL.com, and I will get onto that as quick as I can. I'd just like to say hello and thank you to anyone who has already emailed me with their various different questions in the past. There has been a few of you. And I would just like to say thank you for watching. Thank you for taking the time, sparing me half an hour of your Sunday, or possibly Monday if you're over in the eastern half of the world, Australia way. You'll be Monday watching this, but for the bulk of you, it will be Sunday still. Okay, so thank you very much. I do appreciate it a lot. And thank you for helping my channel get to 3,000 plus watch hours. Thank you for helping my channel get to 1,300 plus subscribers. You are all part of my wonderful tarot team. If it wasn't for you, my channel would be, well, just that, a channel. You are the people who make my channel what it is. So thank you very much. All I do is do tarot readings, which my light's just gone out, which, well, I would be doing anyway. So thank you very much. Hope you have a wonderful time, and I will catch you all on the next videos.